Welcome to the Party Starters podcast with me, Kane Towning.
I know you're gonna dig this.
Welcome to the Party Starters podcast with me, Kane Towning. As always, if you like what you hear, please do give it a share. This guest, in my opinion, is the true legend, the godfather of the bassline scene. Shaun Banger Scott. I'm sure you've all heard of the name, but I bet you don't know all the tracks that he's actually responsible for. He's gone under various different aliases over the years and is responsible for some absolute bangers. So before we get into the interview, I asked Shaun to put together a mashup of the tracks that he's done, some of his productions and some of his mashups. It's around 4.5 minutes long. Give it a listen and then you will truly understand why I call him the legend of the bassline scene. He honed his skills at the legendary Niche. He's been relevant on the bassline scene throughout and is still doing what he loves today. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the Party Starters podcast, Shaun Banger Scott.
I'm gonna get you, baby. I'm gonna get you, baby. I'm gonna get you, baby. I'm gonna get you.
Shaun Banger Scott.
Thinking about you, I'm a little shy. Got to be sure. Funny my love will be coming, and I won't be love shy. Can't get you off my mind. Tomboy, tomboy, tomboy. Tomboy, reach for me. Why don't you reach for my soul? Why don't you reach for me? Why don't you reach for my soul? Reach for me. Tomboy, reach for my soul. You take my hand, and I feel so sure of this love so pure. Outside the night falls down like a river, making me shiver. I never falter, 'cause you are my helping hand. I know where I stand.
back is the incredible.
I can't believe the way he's treating me, treating me, treating me. I love him, but I can't understand. I can't believe treating me. I love him.
How low can you go? Face.
Sir Shaun Banger Scott, thank you very much for coming on the Party Starters podcast.
Can't wait. Been looking forward to this.
I really have, and I will call you sir because you really are a legend.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I remember you from obviously being a niche legend. I remember getting a Shaun Banger Scott tape that did the rounds all through the estate that I used to hang about on and around school.
Yeah, I was just going to say, did you used to listen to it at school? Because, you know, that it makes me feel really also, oh, yeah, you used to have tapes going around school and all that. Like, so I wonder if, like, people had, obviously the kids didn't go that young. The mum and dads went, they heard the music, and then they were bang into it.
Yeah, no,
So-
I remember getting a tape at school, a Shaun Banger Scott tape, and I always remember because you did the mashup that you still do now, The Boy You Got to Me, over Finally a cappella.
all the mashups that I've produced since the SBS Goes Dutch stuff, apart from one which I nicked off Duggan, are all the mashups that I used to do down at Niche. Every single one of them, what they call it, the remix with, I forgot myself now. Don't Call Me Baby. I used to do Renegade Master with California Dreaming. That I can't believe the way Street of the top of now the bass. They're all that I used to do all them live. And Duggan used to do, and I thought, bastard, why didn't I think of that? I used to do a beauty with it was a B-side anyway, and they put Basement Jacks over the top, and I thought, bastard, I should have thought of that one. Were a beauty. And I just turned him over and just went to the studio and produced it proper and put it out as SBS Goes Dutch.
So you all used to like try and who could do the best mashup every week.
Mate, there used to be different variations, you know, that were all the same a cappellas though, you know what I mean? Because you go to Luigi's and, hey, buddy, we've got a new a cappella pack here. And like, obviously me and Jamie used to religiously go shopping every Friday in Leeds. You know, we'd do Luigi's first, then we'd do
Record box.
No, they didn't used to do record box. Later on. No,
Crash Records.
No, didn't touch Crash either because they were just pretentious then.
Jumbo.
No, the big one, not EGS. Fucking, my memory's as bad as fucking. Oh.
We're going to be here a long time, aren't we?
I know we are. What's it called? That big record, the massive record shop that used to do CDs and DVDs.
HMV.
HMV.
Oh hell. We got there.
It wasn't as bad. I gave you enough clues. We used to go to HMV, and then we'd always end up in Vivian Westwood if we got any money left and get a new top for weekend. But that would always his Friday routine. As other routine through the week, I pick him up and we go Halifax, Liverpool. We used to go everywhere just hunting for records. And like when you went to Liverpool and places like that, obviously they were into the Dunk and the Scouse House and all that. So all the garage stuff, all the speed garage and everything else was just chucked in 50p bin. So we used to have but that's where I got that now, the bass from Liverpool in 50p in the garage thing. So, but it were always see who could hunt down the best record. And, you know, that Toxic Twins in Halifax, me and Duggan literally came to blows because I fucking found it, like that. Yeah.
So you'd find all these records and then you'd go drop them at Niche. What year did you start at Niche?
I started in October 1996.
And this is the original Niche on
The
Sydney.
original Niche is Sidney Street. And how'd that come about? I was working in a club in Barnsley called Regent's Park, and they were playing all this, the house, the garage, you know what I mean? It was stuff like Want Love and Lady Cop and Cheryl J and all that sort of stuff. And I got said, "Oh, you're coming to Niche?" After, what's Niche? And I got took down there with one of my best mates, and and I felt like, whoa, and music they were playing were just unbelievable.
And this were more like your handbag house stuff.
It were more handbag house stuff, you know. You got likes of Naughty Nick playing down there, and Paul Revere, and John Allen, and Mark Carr, and you know, all really, really good DJs. But they were just playing the music that I'd never heard before. They're so upfront with music. I can remember hearing BBE 7 days in one week, and I'm thinking like, what the hell's this? You know what I mean? And people used to just go. The atmosphere at Niche was just. It was second to none. You know, you got one bloke in corner every time, you know, he liked a tune. He started whistling like a bird, like, get it that. And then you'd have this like Rasta woman that was just on dance floor. And I'm not talking, I'm talking for 10 hours. And all she'd do, she'd great big dreadlocks, nobody in her waist. Like, oh. And when I started playing, she was my biggest fan. Go on, bugger! Go on! And like, for 10 hours. You know what I mean? It's like that dance floor, you can see it behind me. That's the actual view from the DJ box at the original Sidney Street in Sheffield. And as you can see, you know, there's the gun fingers going on. And the ceiling was just so low that at the back of the room there, that was the only light in it, was just one little spotlight and an half mirror ball that just went round like that. And half the time it didn't go round. So that was the lighting system at Niche.
It was really low ceilings, underground, minimal lighting, and enormous sound system, I'm guessing.
And it was a Martin Audio sound system, and it proper shook. And I mean, they were at very, very bottom end, but it was just perfect for playing the music that we played there. When I first started there, because how the story went, I went down there for 2 weeks on trot. And the first week that I went down there, they said, right, it's 12 o'clock, what we're doing now? Oh, we'll go to Rolling Mill. Now, Rolling Mill were just a pub that opened at 12 o'clock, just for all niches that there'd be like 200 pile up there.
12 p.m?
At 12 dinner time.
Yeah.
On a Sunday.
You go to Niche, then you roll into this other
I go to the Rolling Mill, yeah. And I ended up doing a 5-hour set there. They said, oh, play some 5-hour set. That was that week. Week after I went down there, I fell in love with place. You know, that on dance floor. And I can remember Neil saying to me, right, Mark Carr's not coming today, he's poorly. I put a word in with Steve for the... I said, what, to play here? He says, yeah. He says, we're going to try and get you on.
To play at Niche?
To play at Niche. A dead right. So anyway, I'm just dancing away. Anyway, I feels the biggest hand in the world just grabbed me up back, and he spun me around. He says, "You call the banger?" I went, "Yeah." And it was Mick Baxendale. And he says, "I need to have a word with you." And he took me through dance floor. Snap bar where there were a door for office upstairs, and it just got me in that doorway. He says, "You set off a rumour around my club saying that one of my DJs is going to let me down and not turn up, and that you're playing. What's all that about?" I said, they just pulled me off a dance floor. I've not been, you know what I mean? I'm trying to rate defensive, knowing like who this bloke were. He says, "Well, I'll tell you something." He says, "I guarantee you, while ever I've got an oil in my arse, you'll never play at my fucking club and never disrespect me like that again, saying that my DJs is going to let me down. You're done." You know what I mean? So anyway, went back on dance floor and like fucking shitting myself. And then in about 3/4 an hour later, the same hand, I'm thinking, fucking hell, no, not again. And what a word. They took me back to this place. Says, right, Mark Carr's poorly. Mark Carr's poorly. Paul Revere can't get here until 9 o'clock. You've got half an hour.
Really?
Just like that. So I went and got my records out at car. I started playing all, you know, the obvious, you know, the at that time it was like Morell's Groove. It was, you know, all the what I knew, what the big tunes, Duke, So In Love With You, all that. I thought I'll make me send in here. I'm just going to play everything. And then I dropped. It was by Fine Young Cannibals. It was called The Flame. It was Armand Van Helden mix. And I put it on. I just got it that week. I put it on, and it just drops into, you know what Van Helden's like with bottom heavy bass line. He just went, smashing bottles going against cage and everything. You know what I mean? It was just unbelievable. Anyway, I ended up playing for an hour, and then Paul Revere turned up, and Mick says, "Mate, that were unbelievable. Give me a ring on Monday. That's my phone number. We're going to sort you some sets out for Capital and Niche, and that's it." I were arrested at Capital and Niche with just that. So that's
So
how all that happened, and then.
So you played at you was going to Niche anyway. Then you played at one of the after parties that you used to go to. You did a 5-hour set.
Yeah.
And then word kind of got around that you was.
Well, word got around, but the main thing were that Little Steve Backs were there. Little Steve Backs were up at Rolling Mill,
Right.
and he said, "Oh, he's a right DJ," and like proper put word in for me to his dad, because he like Steve in them days. All Steve used to do, he were at bar, and he'd just have this really big tall stool, and he'd just sit there like that, like looking over his flop. That's all he would do. That's what he got out of Steve. Do you know what I mean?
This is Steve Backs, yeah.
Steve Backs, yeah. And that's all he used to do. And he'd be there. He'd just sit there for hours and he'd just watch everybody, just observe everybody.
So then you started DJing Niche regular from that point?
Yeah, Niche and Capital. You know, Capital was a massive, massive part as well. The Sheffield scene, the bassline scene. And the thing where I didn't only play Friday and Saturday, I might do Friday at Capital and then Saturday at Niche. But then I'd do Tuesday at Capital as well. Tuesday it were packed at Capital on a Tuesday. But then I might do 2 sets, like play at Capital, finish at 4 o'clock, and then I was playing at 4 o'clock down at Niche, doing the 4-7 set. Because that on a Saturday, the sets when it was 12-2, 2-4, 4-7, 7-9, and 9-12. Now, when I started getting, when I got my bit of my fan base, I kept looking at because she got the monthly rota sheet, 9-12 SBS, 9-12 SBS, 9-12. I used to play football. I had to pack football in because they're not, you know what I mean? I was there while like 12 o'clock, and that's where, I always finished with Follow Me, the Alias record.
Yeah.
Just the last record, everybody knew when I played Follow Me, the switch leaks on, and then they're off to Rolling Mill.
So the early days of Niche, it was more your handbag house, your more vocally house music. At what point did it start going to speed garage and what it really became, I guess, famous for? Well,
the thing was, it was not just speed garage. It was anything with a bass line and a vocal. That's all it were, and it right up to like 2001. It was that much. The dub stuff were very few and far between. And if it was dubby, as we spoke about earlier, we put an acapella over the top of it. Mm-hmm. And that's when a dub got played. It was driven by vocals and bass lines. So it was just as famous for the vocals as it was for the bass lines, because we'd be playing a tune for 6 months and then it'd end up in charts, like Giselle Jackson, Love Commandments won, Sarah Parker, My Love Is Deep. But the thing we were playing these records and we got Kiss 105 that had just started in Leeds that had only got a license to play dance music. They couldn't play Britney Spears and all the rest of rubbish. They just had to play dance music. So that's why so much dance music got into charts. You came English Nightlife, Love Commandments, as I said, BB 7 Days 1 Week. I think that got top 10, that. Do you know what I mean? All them sort of tunes that Lisa Stansfield people hold on with, the Armand Van Helden mix, got to number 1. And they're playing that for ages. Sandy B, ages before it come into charts. Do you know what I mean?
So you were dropping all this stuff at Niche, and then before it broke into the...
Yeah, well, Sandy B were there before. They were like, they call them the famous 7 records at Niche in 1996, which every single DJ played. You'd hear 7 Days in a Week, Sandy B, Lady Cop, Cheryl J, Duke, So In Love With You. You know what I mean? That they were all the records that you would hear every single DJ play.
And they all went on to then break into the charts?
Yes, every single one of them. And that was the beauty of club music at the moment. It's like, as you know yourself, getting radio play on radio now is near to impossible for dance music, because all these execs and everything else, they all that sit in playlist meetings. They're all middle-aged men that don't know nothing. Oh, right. Well, what's going to sell us advertising? Well, you know, Jay-Z's got a new single out, and Beyonce, and you know what I mean. Oh, Tay-Tay's got one as well, and that's what it is. And dance music don't get a look in unless it's just like, you know, an Ibiza, you know, the Ibiza summer anthem of that year.
Yeah, very true, very true. Just to kind of stop there.
Yep.
What was so special about Niche? I never went, and you know, I wish I had done. And the way people talk about it, they don't talk about any other club like that. It was, you know, I don't know, there was just some kind of feeling or experience. What was the magic in that place? Why was it so special?
I think the magic word is like, you know, we lived off the hype. You know, it's like, oh, don't go to Niche and all it. But then when people did, you know, because people are nosy, and they'll go and they have the best night of their life, because it's like, I'm not joking to you, you'd have total strangers just talking to you and, you know, getting to know you and everything else. And that's what it was, just one big happy family. And it had every race, colour, religion, it had everything in there. And, you know, and obviously the music, all the music was happy. Every song was just, you know, about love and it were. Do you know what I mean? The music was special, and it weren't. We were really obviously the bass heavy music, the atmosphere, and everything else. It was just the fact that everybody mingled with everybody. And as regarding the trouble aspect,
So people used to say, you know, don't go to Niche, it's full of trouble. But then actually inside was a completely different picture.
mate, I'm not joking now, right? That place was run with an iron fist, and it was literally, and it was the safest club I have ever played in, for the simple reason, you know, if anything went off at all, it was as though they come from out at walls. It was like a mufti squad. It's like straight on it, boom, got on them, and they're gone.
Mm.
Probably ended up in one that skips outside and stayed there until end. That's what they used to do. Call it the punishment skip, the skip room. Do you know what I mean? That's what you just can't imagine what a great time that place were. And you know, the fact that it were open from 12 midnight to 12 midday, and it was just as packed as that, like that, and upstairs as well. Everybody had got their own little, you know, it's like a working men's club where Dot and Ethel sit at front with a glass of orange. You know what I mean? You can guarantee that there'll be a few rude boys there and then some birds. They've all got their own spots. They've all got their own little dancing space. And you think, you'd miss them. You know, you'd be looking out and thinking, oh, we're she then this week? You know what I mean? But they were there religiously, either Friday or Saturday or both. And that's what was so special about it. It was just this very naughty little club, that secluded club that everybody knew about, but people had to dip the toe in to find out how good it were. People that made all the hype and all the shit about it had never been before. They'd never been before. They just jumped up. Yeah, it's fucking drive-bys every week. There's this, that, and all that. And bollocks, absolute bollocks. It was the safest club that you could club in. You could dance in, because you were looked after. You know, even doormen were fucking dancing in corn. You know, that's how good it were.
Yeah, I mean, I worked with Steve in Leeds on Twilight, and he did really run a tight operation. God bless his soul.
Yes, he did. There'll never be another one like him, mate, because the thing is, you know, it was hard. It was very hard. He run a tight ship, but he was straight.
Yeah, absolutely.
If he had a bee in his body, he wouldn't say, he'd tell you.
Mm-hmm.
If he didn't like you, he'd tell you.
Very fair.
Very fair and firm. And Mick were exactly the same as well. Bless him. But there you go.
So I remember, obviously I'd heard of you from Niche. That's where I was, where I knew you from. But then I remember walking into Stinkies in
Right.
Leeds one Sunday afternoon. I'd been out all weekend, and I pulled up in Stinkies at about 2 in the afternoon, and it was the first time I ever went into Stinkies. I'd obviously heard about it and heard how much of a good house event it was back to mine at Stinkies. And I remember walking in and stumbling across this little room, and you was playing there. And
Yeah.
I was so shocked, because obviously I knew Shaun Banger Scott from Niche, Bassline, Speed Garage. And then you was there playing in this house room and playing all these proper, not even funky house. It was more like retro, proper classics, like
Yeah.
your Deborah Cox stuff. And then I found out from the back of that and speaking to you that day that you was doing SAS, which was huge in Leeds, playing at Federation.
Yeah.
And I never knew that was you until then. How
Well, the
did
thing-
SAS come around?
Well, the thing is, it's 1996. Where I'd already been DJing for like 9 years then. So I've been through the Chicago house phase, you know what I mean, as a young lad at 17-year-old, spending all my money, buying Chicago house, getting imports and paying 25 quid for stuff like House Nation and things like that. So my love was house music, and it got me into mixing. A couple of guys from Barnsley, believe it or not, watching them with Japanese Whispers, that really, really into the Chicago house stuff. They're just spending ridiculous amounts of money going to America to buy the stuff and everything. When I do every interview, I mention them both. The one called Kev Proctor, another one called Derek Jones. Now, Derek Jones was the absolute ultimate perfect DJ. Unbelievable on microphone, so professional, silky smooth mixing, everything. Kev Proctor, the piss head, the taking the piss one, absolutely. He used to crowd surf, 1,500 people. Fucking catch me! Boom, on microphone and just jump out into the crowd and crowd surf. You know what I mean? So I'd like to say in my career, I took the best of both of them two.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'd used to watch as a 14-year-old kid at, as they called it, Ball Fanny Night, that art, just listening to watching them playing the Chicago and just watching and learning everything. I'd be there 3 hours and watching them. And my love of house music become then. And then obviously I was DJing there at Japanese Whispers then in like 1990 at 18-year-old. And that were all K class, 91. It were all the big piano vocal house stuff. So I was just reliving my 19, 20-year-old DJing status by doing SAS. And Sean Collins, who was part of Federation with Sean Wilson and Terry George, their event, he just said to me one day, "Do you fancy playing a bit of old school at my event?" I never knew about Federation or even Sean doing events. I only knew Sean as the rival DJ at the nightclub in Barnsley. But we were really good friends. And I says, "What sort of stuff?" He says, just some piano house and all that sort of stuff, just some good retro stuff. So yeah, I'll have a go at that, because obviously Sean was resident at Glass House as well. So the mixture of me playing all the 91 piano classics and the 94 housey sort of stuff, like Susie Carr sort of stuff and all that. Anything with just big vocals. And then Sean had plays his Glass House bangers. And then as it got on, I started putting in, the sweet things, the California Dreamings and everything else and all the organy stuff. Do you know what I mean? But a lot of, the organ stuff from back then, it were all influenced with people like when I were playing like Cornmill and places like that with Howarth and Mark Leaf and Atrium. I was still playing all the house events as well as I was doing the niche things. And there's many a record that I nicked from listening to likes of Leafy and Howarth and getting names off and then breaking them down in each and taking credit for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think SAS was just exactly how you described. Then your, early days K-class stuff, but then you used to drop in a few naughty little organs and bass lines, which is why it was so popular, because Federation was like the ultimate prestigious house night. It was really funky house. It was obviously a big gay event as well, and you just wouldn't associate that with anything to do with bassline at all. So I remember always stumbling across the room 2 at Federation, and you'd be there playing and dropping in these few little cheeky bass lines, and it was absolutely huge.
Yeah. Well, the thing is this. Obviously, that's where the name SAS come from, because we didn't want to put Sean Collins, Shaun Banger Scott. So it was just a big hush-hush thing that, we'll call ourselves Sean and Sean. SAS, brilliant. Just come up with that because Sean didn't want his name put into it, and also they didn't want all the people that followed me, as in the baseline route,
Yeah.
coming to this big house event that like would gay, you know what I mean? It was a gay house event. But the thing were, it's like obviously that room one was just, it had all the massive production, it had the big name DJs on, it had everything, you know, it had Pav on percussion, it had lovely Laura on saxophone and everything else. And then there were me and Sean Collins outside with a stack of speakers, a pair of SL1210s, a mixer, and just a big courtyard in front of us. And that's all we did. And it was just the music that spoke volumes. And the amount of people that just used to come just to stand there for however long it were open, just to listen to us. They never went into the other room. But that's what made it, you know what I mean? They got the better of both worlds with it, because you got all the cool up front stuff with Stu Robinson and all that lot. And then we were just playing old school, and there were a lot of older end, you know. Leeds is known for having the older end clubbers, you know what I mean? And that's what's so special about Leeds is no matter how old you are, you can still go out clubbing and still enjoy yourself, and you know that yourself.
Yeah, so it was. I remember your logo, and I remember that room too. It was just literally the DJ box and just a banner, about a 10 quid banner with SAS on it, and the SAS. Exactly. It wasn't even a logo. It was just like something that had just been done on Word. It was like, find the first font you can find and bang it on a banner.
Exactly, and that's why you know, it's like at that time I got a bit of sponsorship with Feeler, and I got a couple of tracksuit tops off him and told him about it. I got a couple of black tracksuit tops off him and got it all embroidered on the thing as well. You know what I mean? And we had the t-shirts and everything. We used to throw all t-shirts out all the time. So if you've got one of them, it'd be worth about £3 now through to the loom.
Yeah, I really, really did enjoy the SAS stuff. I still do. So you was doing Niche, and you was also undercover doing SAS in Leeds at Federation. What then happened at Niche? How did it eventually end? Where did your journey end with?
Well, what happened where it's like we were still doing our thing. Me and Jamie had done the first Bassline album, which was the Bass Cuts album, and we were promoting that. It was doing it was November 2005. We were doing it with me and Jamie versus Delinquent, a full 8-hour set to promote the album. And on the Saturday before, the police come in coaches, 500 of them from everywhere. It was the first weekend that the police had got the power of the ASBO, and there was the first place that they went for is the place that they tried doing everything to for years and years, were Niche. And they turned up, military-style operation, 500 in coaches and everything else, shut the place down.
Police came on coaches?
Yeah, the coaches, they shipped them up from Nottingham and everywhere, 500 strong. You know, as the ASBO said, that the been reports that we've been dealing arms in there and everything, you know, drugs and everything. And by the way, did you even know what they called the operation?
No, I remember seeing things in the press and obviously hearing from you guys, but I've never...
This is how bad it were. The police called it Operation Repatriate, which means send them back where they come from.
And that's what they call the operation? That's
what they call the operation, yeah. Operation Repatriate, which were fucking beyond belief, to be quite honest. But so literally all the people that were in there, they'd set up in the car park this gazebos and everything with a strip search, every single person that were in there. I'd swapped my set because I was playing in Birmingham and ended up playing first. And then Fergie were on after me. I'd done my set while 2:00, and then I were off down to Birmingham. So I should have been on when it was being shut. And as the report goes, apparently Fergie got told to turn music off with police, and everybody had to form an orderly queue, and there was getting strip search while 7:00 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah, it were bad. And they got frogmen getting, you know, the manhole covers and everything. They were checking all the manhole covers, you know, to see if stuff had been flushed and everything. Wow. And I can't remember the exact figure, but the operation cost, the operation repatriate cost nearly £500,000 to do, to shut one club. And overall drugs haul, right, what, about 8 gram of coke, what they'd found, and some pills. That were it. And it cost £500,000.
Wow. And then that were it. Doors shut.
Doors shut. We got told that, we found it, I found it hard to get sets because everywhere had to be assessed, like a risk assessment now, because obviously police have got the power of the ASBO, and they could say, oh, well, no, you're not having him on, and if you do have him on, we'll just come and close you down. And that's what they could do then. Still can now, I think, to some extent, but you'll know better than me with that. But, I found it for 2-3 years, and if it weren't for Rich Dyson making that initial phone call with somebody, with the police in Bradford, actually, you wanted to put an event on in Bradford. They wanted me and Jamie on, and me and Jamie went to see this licensing sergeant, and we ended up playing. I was playing in a place in Keighley as well. So Niche had closed, and because obviously all the press and stuff surrounding that, you pretty much, your name got blacklisted, and if people was trying to book you, the police was saying, we'll come and shut you down. Yeah, literally. And then Rich Dyson, who is a head of a security firm, wanted to put you on in Bradford, and to do that you had to go have a meeting with the licensing. Yeah. Wow. Me and Jamie. Yeah, went through the same, and they say, because obviously Richard vouched for us, and they said, yeah, we could do it, and if we played in her due restriction, I had to give her 2 weeks' notice, and I'd already been playing at this club in Keighley, and there were about 1,100 people turned up at this place at Keighley, and I says, is Keighley in your due restriction? She says, yeah. I said, well, I play at this place. All right. When are you playing next? So I told her. So I turned up. There were big vans with CCTV cameras on, you know what I mean, with police. They got police on door searching everybody and everything. It was like, yeah. It was like some sort of mafioso that had come, to give a speech and stuff like that. It was stupid. And they had 450 people in that night, as we had 1,100 in, not 2 weeks before when I played. And that's how, you know what I mean? That's how heavy-handed it got. But yeah, but the thing the good thing that come with that is that Jamie started putting his own nights on. And I don't know if he'd have done that if Niche hadn't closed, and you can see what, history's shown now that, he's doing really well, and he's done unbelievable. Yeah, I'm going to get him on and speak about his journey. He wouldn't have to turn bass down, though, on his voice. pitch it up a little bit, and then, there's only dogs can understand what he's saying. Well, what an amazing journey, and it's far from over. You're still hugely active today, playing. I'm 50-year-old now, I'm doing a 23-year-old's job. It's like, it's mad because I still love it. I still love going playing different clubs. I love playing in Leeds, as I said, because there is people there that do actually still club, at 50-year-old and feel comfortable. By the time they're 2018 bands, they're knocked up, they've got 15 kids, and you know what I mean? No, it's just, I just love playing in Leeds, and some events that I've played there, yours included, is one, highlights of my career. Brilliant. And, you've probably got more time in this industry than most people that I speak to. So what would be your key advice to some young DJs starting out? What would you say to them? How I did it was, I picked those two DJs, Derek and Kevin, and Derek and Kevin sounds like Kevin and Perry, doesn't it? And I just watched and I got to know him. And the thing what you get remembered for is your music, and, I've always had this saying, the banger exclusives, you know what I mean? And being known for playing that record first or that record first. And that's what, you can't be a sheep. You've got to get your own identity and your own. But then once you've got it, you've got to get it to the right people, and that's when you make a bit of a nuisance of yourself and blag yourself sets. Now, the main thing is if you do get there, and only advice I can get, it's really nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. And I've survived so long is because I've never burnt any bridges with anybody.
Mhm.
And I had an agent who wants to take me on last year called Seth, and he says, "What is the point of you having an agent? Because everybody that I've phoned up to put it on, they know you, they've got your number." And that's what I've always done. I've always collected numbers. I've always, you know what I mean? Because you never know when you might need them or they might need you. And I've always been right. I've never overpriced myself. I've never had it. Well, I have had an agent with Gordon's Groove and everything else, and it was the worst thing ever, to be quite honest, because they just look out for yourself and not they look out for themselves, and you just a bit while you're relevant, they love you, and then when you're not relevant, it's like, yeah, sort yourself out. So I've looked after myself, and I've always charged the right money, looked after the people that needed looking after, and they've looked after me. It's like, you were the first person to book me at our way.
I was just going to say, I will 100% vouch for you on that. Back in my OTT days, my mum used to run a pub called OTT, and we started putting on bassline events, and my very first DJ booking was you, Shaun. And this was a time when Niche had just closed, and you was huge. Like you was a superstar DJ around them areas. And my mum got in touch with you, and I couldn't believe you agreed to come and play this little pub in Ossett. And not only that, if you don't mind me saying, you charged us £150, which was nothing then.
Yeah.
You said you'd do it on mates rates because you knew my mum, and you could see I was a little kid. And
well, I just thought it were unbelievable what you were doing, and the fact that you got Bondi playing on the same night as well. And I thought, you know what I mean? She says, "There's only 14. He's trying to," and I got a lot of time for you, Mum, because every time I went to Glass House, and no matter, go and get your singing cock, you're all right. Do you know what I mean? And it's like it's that mutual respect, and I think. Well,
but even from back then, it were a direct booking. You was speaking to you. You've always been right with everyone, and
that's how you've got to be. And if you can get a reputation like that, people like yourself, you can think, right, I've got a couple more spots here. I tell you what, I'll ring Banger. He's all right. You know what I mean? He can do a job, and that's how I've always. Do you know what I mean? I've headlined loads and loads and loads of stuff, but I've always been the one that's always been reliable. Mm-hmm. If you know what I mean. So, and I'm happy with that. I'm really happy with that, and my career's seen it 33 years, and I'm still relevant, which is good.
And you're still enjoying it? You absolutely love it?
I do. I don't like being tied in one place, to be quite honest. And I've got my own venture now with digital, which, all the favours that I've done for people, as you said, mates rates, and I pull some of the biggest names, you know what I mean, from round the Yorkshire area to come and play at my little bar, like you've played there. Do you know what I mean? Mates rates, and that's what it's all about, mate. And being able to do that is, I'm loving that, being able to bring something back to my hometown as well.
Oh, that's brilliant, mate. That's brilliant. Well, thank you very much. I do really appreciate your time, and I love speaking to you. And just massive respect from me, Banger. You are an absolute legend.
And you as well, pal. I've obviously everything you've touched turned to gold, and I've been a part of that journey from you being 14-year-old, and hopefully we can keep doing it until I start pissing and shitting my son. or it's like if my backup plan is if I do fail with my DJing now, become irrelevant, I'm just going to be a Danny Bond tribute. It's going to be just go around talking like this and just doing interviews when you can't do it, Brady.
Come on, then let's end with a little Danny Bond.
Right then, Danny. Like, I've got a last question from James from Horsforth, and he's asking here that you've been really successful with your live streams, and you've had loads of things happen. Now you've done the USB sticks, you've done the the DVDs and everything. If it's so popular at Christmas, why don't you do a Danny Bond doll? That, you know, it comes with Hero Allen from Next Door in his pants, you know what I mean? And you wind it up and it's got 3 sayings. He goes, "No, watch your bass pins, I'm telling you." And you pull it again and he goes, "Oh God, what's happened?" Stuff like Can you just imagine that? That'd be absolutely amazing.
How did you think that?
Oh, you see, the thing is, it's like everybody thinks that, you know, when I was doing it on bass cuts back in 2005 and you know, with the Key of the Secret and Watch the Bass Bins and all that lot, they thought I was bullying him. I'm going to fucking hold my end up. I said, I made Danny Bond what he is. You know what I mean? I made Danny Bond what he is, right? Danny Bond, who knew about Danny Bond before I started putting him on my mixtapes? And I put him on my mix CDs. He'd always have the intro. Do you know what I mean? It's like, see if I can...
Yeah, it's good. It's good banter.
Yeah, mate, but that's all it were. I was just trying to find James Bond theme. Yeah, the name is Bond, Danny Bond. but the thing is, he says he can remember we were playing at Abbott, and he come out and he got this his taxi driver that always used to take him around everywhere, and he pulled him and he got one of my seat my CD off, and like, yeah, the name is Bond, Danny Bond. He's like, oh, for fuck's sake, can't get away from it. But
Brilliant.
Me and Danny's tight, and you know what I mean. But that is my claim to fame, that, you know, Danny Bond wouldn't have been anything without me taking the piss out of him. You know, and I've told him this time, if, you know what I mean, with his home rave, if I start doing the Danny Bond sketches and everything else, I want 20% of everything that he earns.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I should have got it from day one. I might have had about 40 quid by now.
Welcome to the Party Starters podcast with me, Kane Towning.
I know you're gonna dig this.